Often even as coaches, as practitioners, or educators, we know what we're supposed to do. Yeah. However, when we're in the midst of chaos, when the winds are blowing, when the trees are falling, we revert to our old patterns. How can we increase the probability of seeing or utilizing the opportunity during these chaotic moments? I want to remember this one quote from my man Sun Tzu. In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. And I know that you have received the resource that you need to move forward. So that means the next step for you is to go and take action. Also remember, our Bali NLP Practitioner training is coming. February. So those of you who are interested in kicking off 2024 with us in Bali, with our NLP Practitioner training, if you are a coach and you're hoping to become a coach, this will be perfect for you, because we spend the entire year showing up every week, sharpening our toolkit so that we can navigate the orders of chaos.
Hi there, Adrian here, and this is a video from a Zoom session that we do. We do these Zoom sessions every Sunday, and we take questions and answers from the audience, some of our students, some of our members. We never know what questions are coming up, so I'm always excited to do these sessions, and I hope to see you at one of them. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below and check out the other playlists that we have. Thank you, enjoy.
And for today, I would really like us to evaluate and re-evaluate our thoughts on this particular topic, chaos. Now, we have all encountered chaotic circumstances in our lives. And today we are going to be examining what chaos really means and if we are able to find order in our chaos. So here are some objectives for today. We want to appropriately define chaos, because sometimes in our lives we think a circumstance is chaotic when it's really not. It's how we perceive these circumstances, is how we see it, that makes it seem as if it's total chaos. We also want to describe the chaos theory and its relevance to NLP, discuss purpose of chaos in our lives, in our small groups. We have 9 persons, so it will be good for us to have breakout rooms to really look at this topic, pull it apart and examine in our own lives where we have seen chaos and what it really means to us and the actions that we need to take to deal with it in order to see the order that's really in chaos. So we're going to be sharing our insights in larger groups, and we're going to be using the content reframe technique to re-evaluate this chaos. Now, I love the reframing tool. I was exposed to it through Darko and Adrian, and I've just been using it in my own life to look at my circumstances differently. Is the glass half empty or is it half full? Then we're going to reflect, because it makes no sense. We are here every Sunday, but we do not reflect, we do not look within ourselves and figure out, what have I learned? What actions do I need to take after this? How will I move forward? So we're going to reflect and we're going to make valid conclusions about this theme. So before I even continue, let me tell you about my beautiful country. I'm from the beautiful island of Jamaica. For those who do not know where Jamaica is, it's right here between North America and South America. And it's a part of the Caribbean. The Caribbean has a mixture of so many different people, so many different languages. It's a melting pot of cultures. And it's a wonderful place to live. And that's where I grew up. I'm the last of 6 children, and I'm the mother of a tall, handsome 13-year-old boy. So this is what my country really looks like. It's an island, beautiful sea, waterfalls. It's really a tropical island, and it just evokes passion and diversity, and it's my home. So being the last of 6 children, I have faced so many circumstances in my life that I could only define as being chaotic. Now, when I look at my life, I realize they weren't really chaotic. They were just really items, actions in my life to reprogram, to help me to recalibrate my steps and to move forward. So a bit of my story. This is what my life looked like about 10 years ago. What can you see? Do you see any order in this? Do you see any patterns in this? What do you really see? So it was one of those Saturday mornings, a very beautiful day. I was at home with my son, and at that time he was about 2 years old, and my marriage had just broken apart. My husband confessed his infidelity, and I asked him to leave. I had no idea that he would come that day with a moving truck. So he came that day with a huge truck, and I was wondering, what is he doing? And he came and he moved every single thing out of the house, everything. He moved every piece of furniture, every item out of the house. And he left me and my son without no bed, no stove, no nothing. He left us there. And at that point, I fell into depression. I had followed the rules. I had finished college, gotten married, had a child, had the white picket fence, and everything was going fine. But this was not what I had anticipated. And I felt as if my life had fallen apart. This picture represented what my life looked like at that point in time. So when I looked at my life, I couldn't see any order. All I saw was chaos. All I saw were what was the broken glasses all around me of my expectations for my life, what I had envisioned for my life. And I know that there are persons here who can resonate because you have plans for your life. You had made plans for your life. But somewhere along the line, some things happened and your life fell into a state of what we could only be termed, what we could only categorize as being chaos. At that point in time, it got worse and worse. And I, being a planner that I am, I had planned to take my own life and to take the life of my son, because I didn't want to leave him in this mess. And so I started to plan, and sitting there on the floor of my living room floor, and I looked at my life and I spread it out, and all I could see was this in front of me. There was no order. There was nothing to say. This is my life. All I saw was chaos. But then as I looked, I could see a thread. And that common thread, I started pulling at that thread. When I realized all the women in my family, except my mother, had experienced similar situations. They had become single mothers like myself. And when I looked at the thread, I could see patterns developing in my family and among the women in my family. And that was when I got up and I said, no, I'm going to cut this thread. I'm going to stop it right here, right now. So I took myself up. I put away the plans that I had to take my own life, to take the life of my son, to just give it up, to just give up. And I started over. Fast forward 6 years later, I came to China. I'm an IB educator, an author, NLP practitioner, certified life coach. What else? And the list goes on. Now, I could have stayed in that state, and my life could have stayed in this situation. I could have said, you know what, the glass is half empty and there's no hope for me. Instead, I chose to look deeper into the chaos that was my life and to find the thread, to find a pattern, and to find an order in that chaos. So when I look at this picture now, I see something very differently. My perspective has changed. I no longer see the glass half empty. And this is what we're going to be doing today. How do you see chaos? 9/11 happened and it threw the world into chaos. Then we had the pandemic. And the pandemic threw everything out of sync. And persons committed suicide, job losses. It was just really a traumatic time for most persons. But it was also a time where persons found great opportunities in their lives. Persons became entrepreneurs. Persons decided to remake themselves. Persons became more resilient. Is this how we view our lives now? Out of 9/11, out of the pandemic, out of that chaos, creativity came forth. Hope sprang up, and so many bigger and larger opportunities were opened for persons to become the better version of themselves. So if you look at this picture, you may not see order now, but we're going to look back at it later on, and you're going to see, look a little bit closer, if you can find an order in this chaos. So Jose defined, he had this beautiful quote that I love. It says, chaos is merely order waiting to be deciphered. Is it that we have not really begun to look at what chaos is? Are we defining chaos according to our own individual beliefs and perceptions? Is chaos really chaos? Let's evaluate those questions. Let's think a little bit deeper. So as an educator, this is a tool that we use. It's a visual thinking routine. And we start with, I used to think. So we're going to start there today. I used to think, and I want persons to respond to me now. Let this be an interactive session. I used to think that chaos was this. And we had this question to evaluate. Why do we experience chaotic situations? What does chaos mean to you? Go ahead. Chaos means to me, would like to share?
Well, maybe let me kick things off by answering the first question as well. Now, why do we experience chaotic situation? I think it comes back to the idea, we're aware of things that is happening. And, one thing we learned from NLP is that we filter a lot of information. So that means the map that we are seeing right now and we're aware of is not our reality. Yeah, we filter it on our brain process and gives us a representation of the world. And the reason why we experience chaos, I believe, in my opinion, is that we are so unaware of what reality is. So when something is actually happening in our reality, lack of that awareness makes us perceive that reality as chaotic. And the second question, what do we need to... what is chaos? I think chaos is everything else, everything that we're unaware of that doesn't make sense to us currently. That would be my definition of chaos. Yeah.
Anyone else? What does chaos mean to you? How do you see chaos? I'm sure that many persons, when we saw the pandemic, when we were going through it, we said, this is more than I could manage. And our finances fell apart. Some persons lost their jobs. it was indeed a chaotic situation. But in our individual lives now, let's evaluate, what does chaos really mean to you? Because your interpretation of chaos and mine can be completely different. What I see as chaos, you may see as peace. You may see it as being calm. You may not see chaos as I see chaos. So chaos, the term chaos in itself depends on our interpretation, on our perception of what chaos really means. So Tadej, what do you think chaos means to you?
Yeah. Well, for me, the chaos is something what happens and I have no clue what to do.
Mm-hmm. And
This
why?
is general.
Yeah. Why do you think you experience chaotic situations? Is it that you didn't plan for it? You didn't have an insight into it? What do you think could have created these kind of circumstances?
Yeah, I think that most of the time we get these situations that we learn something what we have to learn.
Mm-hmm. Very good insight.
Right. So for me, actually, I don't even remember what I could tell you what is chaotic for me. I see some things like chaotic, but I don't go there. I don't put myself inside. I don't get involved. And if it would happen to me, I'm a, how to say that, professional planner. I have a lot of backup solutions for a lot of things. So for me, it's just opportunity to show what I can do. And from one point of view, if I don't know how to do, at least I know who to ask. And then I learn something new.
Mm. So he said that he's a professional planner. So if he sees something chaotic, he doesn't go into it. He avoids it. Okay, anyone else? Darko,
Yeah,
what
Jennifer,
about you?
Jennifer, may I come in, if I may?
Yes, go ahead.
Well, in my mind, chaos is only there if you do not see the underlying orderly state of the situation. So rather like today, chaos is only there if you let it be chaos, if that makes sense to you.
Mm-hmm. You said that it is there only if we let it be chaos. So
Correct.
chaos, the situation might be chaotic based on our perception of it. It may not be chaos at all. Maybe, just maybe, it's life that's telling you something. You need to change directions. You need to reconfigure your thoughts, change something in your life, modify something in your life so that you'll be on a different path. So what really is chaos? What do we need to learn from these situations? William, why do you think we had all of the chaotic, the trauma in the global pandemic?
Well, to me, that's quite simple, Jennifer. I hate to say this. Bad government, I'm afraid, and wrong scientific decisions. That's why, okay. I don't think it was chaotic. It was made to appear to be chaotic by governments putting fear into people. But anyway, that's another story probably. So chaos to me is when you don't recognize the underlying rhythm, pattern, whatever it may be. So it's a question of just not allowing yourself to be flummoxed by not recognizing the pattern, but endeavoring to understand that pattern and rhythm behind it.
So there is a pattern in all of this, but can we see that pattern? Can we find the order in what we perceive as chaos? Darko, what about you?
I saw Yolanda was asking to talk, so yes, Yolanda, go on.
Actually, I think chaos, it's a very great question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You can.
Yes, it's a great question because like chaos, I very rarely like perceive chaos. And so just now when William was sharing, I was thinking of chaos being maybe a result of expectations that aren't met. Meaning we have like an expectation or like a certain expectation of how things shall go. And when they don't go that way, then there's a perception of overwhelm or shock. And that might have been also in the pandemic the case. We wouldn't have expected things to happen this way. And so that felt chaotic. But in a way, for me, chaos, like when there's outside chaos, I'm not very much affected. I'm more affected of internal overwhelm or chaos. Like when I cannot understand what is happening around me, then I'm overwhelmed. If that is chaos, I'm not so sure. Like I feel chaos is very interesting. I don't really rely to that word.
That's what we're here to do tonight. Today, we are really here to reevaluate, to look at how we really perceive chaos. As William stated, it's because we are not ready, our minds are not ready to look at the underlying order that is there. We are only able to see all the things that are going wrong. But if we sit and we look closely, we'll find patterns. We'll find patterns and we'll find the order that can be birthed out of a traumatic situation. Can we find order now in our chaotic lives? We are going to evaluate our individual lives. Where in our lives do we find something out of sync, out of order, something that we cannot put in place, something that is hard to decipher? What are we seeing in that circumstance? Are we really seeing it as chaos, or can we find patterns in that aspect of our lives? Darko, go ahead.
I think for me, chaos, I'm in a chaotic situation when I think that I do not have enough resources to solve the situation. So it like others say, it is overwhelming because I don't know how to solve. And this is chaotic situation. It is not always depends on myself, but also there is some external situation. Let's say yesterday there was a storm, so it doesn't depends on me, but was storm outside, and we need to manage this external, how to protect us to things like that.
So when you look at go ahead, Darko.
What do we need to learn from these situations? I think these situations comes to us to increase our awareness, that we are able to find solution even in hard situations. So at the beginning, of course, it comes a chaotic situation. It comes something, we feel overwhelmed. Maybe for some period we are going to step back, but I think we are learning that we are able to find solutions and to fight this situation. And can we find order in chaos? It seems we need to look deeper for this. We need to step back and then to think from this. Always, when I found in a chaotic situation, I'm trying out to solve the situation. But then it needs time. If I come back to think, to look to the order and then to think more. I think that is my thinking.
Before I even had gone into that, I showed you a picture of what my life looked like about 10 years ago.
Okay.
I thought my life was just a big mess. Can you find any pattern at all in any of this? Can you find any string, anything that's that says there's order in this at all? Is this how your life, is this what your life looks like today? Can you find any pattern in this? Can you find order?
I can find patterns. There is a red, there is a black circles
Here.
in a group. Then in the other part there is a blue circles in group. Also the colors yellow, red, they're all in one. They're not going like they're not mixing.
Go ahead. Yeah, thank you. Can you find any patterns in this? Can you see any order at all in this painting right here? Go ahead, William.
I do, yes, indeed. Well, I'm saying it's very colourful. Richard York gave back and made all the colours of the rainbow in there. But also what I see, I don't know if anyone else can see, I actually see the face of a young girl by the looks of it in the, just sort of, can you see the red block with like a little eye?
Right here, right here.
Yeah, Jonathan, you got it, with the hair there.
Yeah.
And I see someone looking through this, but there's order amongst the to me anyway, there's order amongst the way it's put together, because it's a bit like a jigsaw with the round blue bits, different color blue bits, and the black bits. And I think it's rather lovely actually from my point of view. Yeah, so I do see I find that very appealing to me.
Perspective and or underlying beliefs. Is it that we have been so socialized and so indoctrinated to think that anything that is a little bit out of order is chaos? Is it what we have been taught? How can we unthink? How can we unlearn this? How can we change our perspective of this? Does anyone else want to share? What do you see? Do you see any patterns in this? Do you see anything that speaks of order in this painting right here?
I can see the mirror.
Go ahead, Ty.
Go ahead.
I can see the mirror on the left side. So there is where you have to look at why this chaotic situation actually happened. What did you do that it bring you to this situation? Because usually it's our own, if I can say, fault that we come to the situation which we see as a chaotic situation, because either we are wearing very thick sunglasses or we just don't want to hear what is happening around.
See that? We just don't want to hear because maybe we can't associate with what we are hearing. Can we trust our eyes? Can we trust our ears? Can we trust our belief system? When situations like 9/11 occur and the pandemic, what do? We have to reconfigure our whole thought process. And if we're unwilling to do that, this is what we see. What seems like chaos, but there's order in it. Anyone else? Go ahead.
If I may, it's Farah here.
Yeah, go ahead, Farah.
My opinion would be layers in this image, like layers of painting and then layers of probably pencil, written in pencil and in, the black color. So one way of looking at it in an orderly manner would be to look at it in layers instead of the whole image at the same time.
Interesting. Very interesting. So you see layers in it. Very interesting. Go ahead, Dino.
When I look at this image, it makes me think of hurricane. The hurricanes are very chaotic. Yeah, and if you're on the island when there is a hurricane, there's a lot of winds and the trees are dancing and maybe your roof would get blown off, and that's very chaotic. And there's no art until you turn on the television and then the weatherman show you a zoom out version of the hurricane. and then you see an order. And I'll apply the same perspective to this picture itself. If we look deep into the picture, it's chaotic. However, if we zoom out and know that this picture is in a frame, then there is an order to it. It's in a rectangle, and maybe it's surrounded by a white border. Maybe we zoom out a bit more and see it from the roof. Yeah, and then we can see, the artist above the picture. Yeah, putting it in a particular orderly manner that can be hung on a wall. So that's how I can see order in this picture, not from looking at the colors and the lines on the inside, but zooming out a bit more and see that it's in a frame.
Wonderful. And that brings us to what we are going to be doing today, reframing our perspectives, reframing our underlying beliefs about what chaos really is. Because chaos in our minds is disorder and everything out of sync. But is it really chaos, or is it a set of activities or events that are there to change our directions, to compel us, to challenge us to become different persons? So let's continue. So I used to think chaos was disorder and out of sync, and I used to feel overwhelmed. So what do I think now? So looking at this, there's this guy hanging from a cliff, precipice of defeat. I use this to cover because there are some words there that were not really pleasant. And underneath him, you saw a dark abyss. Who is in this situation today? Are you in this position today? Are you hanging from this cliff? And all you can see below you is darkness. All you can see is defeat in your life, in your business, in your personal life, in your family life. How can we change our perspectives? How can we reframe our belief system? How can we zoom out, as Dina said, and look a little deeper from a different perspective? How can we change our thoughts about chaos? Now on this side, look at him now. He says, maybe I should actually buy Spotify. Nice and breezy, comfortable place for my hand. What is happening here? Look at the two pictures. What do you think is happening in this picture? Is he the same person he was on this part that says, oh no, I'm gonna die, and everything's crashing around me and I can't see any hope and there's no light? Look at what he has done now. He has done what? He has reframed his situation. Now he is evoking a sense of creativity in his life. He's looking at, I'm comfortable here. It's nice and breezy. Maybe I should buy Spotify. Maybe I should start my own business. Maybe I should change my locations. Maybe I should change my partners. Maybe I should change the color of my house. Reframing helps us to change our perspectives, changing our negative perceptions into positivity. And through what we term as chaos, creativity can be born. We can find room for creativity. We can find that depth within us that says, hey, what can I learn from this situation? I need to see the glass as half full, because maybe, just maybe, I need to reinvent myself. I need to change my belief system. I need to put away with the negative impressions and the positivity instead. Nadine, go ahead.
No, I was going to say first, when I looked at the picture, I was thinking of, I kind of use that as a kind of journaling technique. So whenever I feel overwhelmed, I actually get a piece of paper and I just draw any kind of shape and color anyhow. And then I actually do feel better, because I guess the chaos on the paper causes my mind to actually feel better after I put all of that. So it's like getting order from disorder in a sense.
See that?
And and the difference in perspective, I think a lot of times we cannot see past today or this moment. So when we cannot see past this, we become overwhelmed.
Yes.
But after a long time, we actually realize it wasn't so bad. Why were we so afraid? But it's just something in our minds that's making us feel that this is the end. We cannot get past this. But many times I say, but actually, you have been through similar things. You have overcome similar things. So if you look at it in that way, you then find something that can make you go forward. But at the time, you cannot see beyond what is happening to you. So you have this small perspective. So I think you need a larger perspective to see clearer.
Yeah, we have tunnel vision when we just broaden our vision or insights, look a little wider, a little deeper. What can we see in this situation? Anyone else? I see something in the chat. Gina said, I bet there's water underneath. Maybe there is. Yolanda, like 100 meters below, lol. But I get it's a metaphor for how it feels emotionally. And it's not a real situation. That's very good insight. It's not real. It's just what we perceive. And we look at it from our beliefs and how we have been socialized and taught to think about situations. When in fact, it's not real, it's not gonna last. It's just an impression that we have. So the moment that we begin to reframe, to think of the positive side of things, things will begin to change, and we can evoke creativity, we can evoke authenticity, we can start a new business, we can become a whole new person by just looking at chaos, finding order in that chaos, and finding the patterns and reinventing our lives. Kadesh says, what and how deep is under depends on you. Also, what is under? Foam, water, or soil? That's very interesting. So he has changed his perspective. He has looked at the situation from a different angle. He's saying, wow, this is very comfortable, nice and breezy. I'm not going to fall, I'm not going to die. You know, in the pandemic, when we were locked away, I began to panic. My family was saying, come home, and why did you go to China? And why did you choose to go over that part of the world? And they were just, and I just said to myself, if I had stayed home, I would have died. I would have lost the fire in me. And so I knew I had to leave. But then leaving and coming into this situation now, it felt overwhelming until I looked at it differently. And like Nadine, I started to write. I started to journal. And out of the pandemic came my first book, My Father's Heart. And after that came my second book, The Sight. And even now, there are instances in my life that seem chaotic. But in those instances, I find such great creativity coming out of me. I'm going to publish my next book very, very soon. And I'm launching programs, and I'm launching training programs and different activities. If I had looked at my glass as being half empty, if I had looked at the picture and said all I saw was mess, where would I be now? What kind of person would I be now? So we're going to be reframing our perspectives. So content reframing is a technique in which we change what we see as negative into positive. How can this benefit me? How can this recession, how can I use this recession or this event to reinvent, to recreate, to get my creativity out? How can I use this chaos to spark creativity in my life? So at this time, we're going to be dissecting these questions, and I want persons to respond as we go along. How can we use content reframing techniques to create order in our chaos? I have said before, look at it from a different perspective, zoom out, determine our core belief. What is it that I believe about this? What do I see, and where does this belief really come from? It comes from my culture, how I've been socialized, what my parents taught me, Then I am going to be looking at it, mapping my belief system. What are my core beliefs? What are my 4 top or my most intimate beliefs? And how can I reevaluate them? How can I change my perspective of what I believe to reframe my situation? So what else could this mean? So in your life, if you're so led to share, I want you to look at one situation in your life, and you're going to evaluate what else could this mean? What else could this mean in your life? Would anyone like to share? Bernadette? Farah, go ahead.
I see most events as situations, and situations as anything in life pass. Nothing lasts forever. That's a very impermanence of things. And I have learned also to ask in any situation that might appear difficult, what good can come out of it? What can I do to make something good come out of it?
What else could this mean? So in our minds now, look at one situation that seems out of sync. What could this mean? What else could this mean for me? Does it mean a change of careers? Go ahead, Nadine.
I think it means you should follow your intuition. Many times before things happen, we do get that warning, we do get that feeling, we do get that sense, but many times we ignore that. And so when we can be in sync with our intuition and we can listen, then I think we can be on the right path. The minute we are not going to do that, we are going to find some friction, something happening to put us back on that path.
So when we look at what else could this mean, looking at reframing it, could I get a positive response out of this negative situation? In what ways could the situation become positive? In what ways can I evoke creativity out of it? Now, I remember reading a story about this man who he's an artist, and he uses his right hand to paint. And he went hiking one day and he met in an accident, and his hand was caught under a boulder. His right hand, the hand that he used to paint, that was the most important hand that he had. It was his livelihood. It earned him money. It earned him fame. But yet now that hand was crushed. And he stayed there and he waited for help, but no help came. There was no one to rescue him. And he had to make the choice to cut off that hand. Can you imagine yourself being in that position? You have built your entire life on this, and now it's falling apart. And now you have to make some decisions. Do I have to close this business? Do I have to let go some of my employees? Do I have to leave the country? He had to make the choice to cut off his hand that he valued so much. But that was how he survived. And years later, he learned to use his other hand. And he made even more beautiful paintings using his other hand. Now look at this. If he had stayed there and died, waiting for help to come, the rescue team to come and get him out of there, he would have just stayed there and he would have just perished. He had to come to a point in his life where he says to himself, I have to survive. I have to live. I have to get out of this. I have to see this in a different light. I have to cut off what I need to cut off out of my life to become a better person. So he made a choice to cut off that hand, and he lived. And he learned new skills. And so if we're in this position today, What new skills do we need to learn? What new ideas do we need to learn? Go ahead. Anyone wants to share? I need to learn this. I need to learn new things in terms of this. I'm not seeing any hands.
Well, I'll say I need to learn how to be more aware of my emotions and what they mean for me specifically. Yeah, that's what I think I'll need to learn.
And sometimes you need to unlearn some things. Like I had to unlearn what my parents had taught me about money. I had to unlearn what I had been taught in school about entrepreneurship. I had to unlearn all of those things. And I had to relearn a lot of things. But are we willing to do that? Are we willing to say, listen, I need to unlearn some things. I need to put away some habits, some behaviors. I need to learn some new strategies, new ways of thinking, new perspectives. I need to learn new ways in order to cope, in order to be resilient, in order to be prepared for uncertainties. I need to reframe, I need to restructure my mindset. So if we look closely enough at the chaos around us, patterns will start to develop. Nadine?
No, most of the stuff you said, I was saying yes to. I need to learn those things too.
Yeah, I had to unlearn so many things in my life. When I decided to transition from Jamaica to China, everyone said to me, why? You had a job, you had a home, you had everything. But then I knew that I needed to do something different with my life. I felt like I was suffocating where I was. But then if I looked at what persons were saying to me, I would have stayed there and I would have died. My creativity, my fire would have just burned out. I want to be the person I am today. I had to decide to reframe my thoughts, my beliefs. I had to decide to unlearn something that I had thought were the core of my being. Because we have certain beliefs that have been embedded in us, from our culture or parents, or work environment, that you really need to let go of. Because these are negative, and these are the things that are inhibiting us from seeing order in chaos. These are the things that are preventing us from really being creative and going out there. During the pandemic, many persons who never imagined that they'll become entrepreneurs, that they will become authors, that they become coaches, they started their own businesses. They learned new skills. They turned their negativity into positive situations. And look at what's happening now. New jobs are being created. New opportunities are out there. We no longer have to be in the box of being this kind of person. Now we have the whole world opening up. Persons are creating new jobs that we haven't even imagined would have existed. We are finding creativity out of the chaos of our pandemic. The content or meaning of a situation is determined by what you choose to focus on. So what are you seeing today? What are you focusing on in your life? Are you looking at the mess, the out of sync incidences, the out of sync activities, nothing that is making sense? Are you being overwhelmed as you look at these things? What do you choose to focus on? Is the glass half empty or is it half full? Let's go back to the man hanging here. What choices do you need to make today? To turn, to reframe all the negative ideas that you had into positive ideas and outlooks. When we looked at this part, he only saw a dark abyss. And some person said foam or water. He only saw the feet. But when he looked a little deeper, when he reevaluated his core beliefs and looked at how he could get order out of this chaos and get positivity out of his negativity, he found that he could actually be very creative. And see, he's on his phone. He's going to buy Spotify. What do we need to do now? How do we need to behave? How do we need to reframe our thoughts and become creative? What impressions do you have now of these patterns? What would your life look like if you looked more closely at the order in your chaos? Who wants to take this? Go ahead. What would your life look like? What would my life look like if I looked a little closer at what I thought was chaos? What would your life look like? Farah?
Yeah. I don't have an answer right now.
Anyone else? What would you do differently? And look at the word differently. What would you need to do differently to find order in what you think is chaos? What would they need to do differently? Think about it. Evaluate.
Jennifer, can I come in there?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm a great believer in actually being in the moment, you know. So sometimes one doesn't need to recognize the chaos when it's around you because you're focusing on the now. And when you focus on the now, it's only the moment that really matters, really.
Focusing on the now. What does that look like to you, William? Focusing on the now.
Well, it doesn't like anything to me. I just feel it, you know. There's no looking, it's feeling, it's frequency. Sorry, that's my pet thing. Sorry about that. But if you focus on the now, chaos doesn't actually exist.
Wow, great insights. If you focus on the now, chaos doesn't exist. Yes, go ahead.
I believe that before start focusing on the now, we need to go through chaos. So to find out that living in the now is really what it needs to be. Because what the theory says is that we as a people, as a human beings, we are constantly trying to find meaning of the world and meaning of what is happening. So it is in our nature.
So it's in our nature. And somebody said earlier, it's based on our expectations too. We expect things to be this way, and when they are not,
expectations, yes, they're also part of nature.
When they are not, our life has fallen into chaos. Go ahead, Dino.
Yeah, what I'll say for this this question is, I think I'll be more at peace. I'll be more calm. I'll be more present, as William said. And I think something that I want to highlight as well is that the dangers of chaos is very, very real. Yeah, because if you're in a hurricane, you would get killed if you're in the wrong place. And I think that's why you'll be present and becoming aware of the chaos. Yeah, you will be able to navigate it better. However, what you feel on the inside, that's of your own creation. So whether you're feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, lost, hopeless, those are created on the inside. And the way life would look different when I become more aware of the chaos is that now I'll be more at peace. Yeah, now I'll be more grounded. And I'll now make a much more resourceful decision to get to a safe location like you did. Yeah, you now became grounded and you make a decision. I need to leave this environment so I can lit my fire and be safe. Yeah. So I think that's what would be different for me personally.
Very good insights. And the chat, Tadet said, pandemic for me was a chance to relax and spend time with my family. Dino, chaos is the mother of innovation. Wow, can you expand a little bit on that statement? This is very, very insightful. Go ahead, Dino. Chaos is the mother of innovation.
Well, if you look at every innovative idea that has actually been created, it happened from doing something outside of the norm. And a great case study is in Elon Musk and SpaceX. They were struggling financially to get their rockets, funding for their rockets. And one thing they had to do was to cut costs so much that they couldn't pay some of the employees. So one of the ideas that they came up with through that adversity or that moment of chaos was to create reusable rockets. Now, when they create reusable rockets, they were able to launch a rocket out of space and reuse it for multiple launch, which makes their overhead less expensive than other rocket company. And this is just one example, and we can see a lot more case studies where there are situations that seem big and not just causes us to pivot in a direction that end up being more resourceful. That's what I meant by that.
Love that, love that. Bernadette said, pandemic allowed me to recharge and do more of the things that make my heart sing. See that? So there are so many positives that came out of a negative situation. And Dino said the cut off hand part is hard, left or right, that took another level of will to survive. But then you have to survive in a climate that is just pulling you apart and you can't find the answers. You will start to innovate. You will start to look at things differently. You will begin to reframe your perspectives and beliefs and seeing the positive out of the negative circumstances. Darko, I need to improve my marketing skills. Way to go, Darko.
You ask what do you need to do differently?
What do you need to do differently? Improve your marketing skills. So that means you're going to get either a marketing manager and new ideas, relearn some skills, upskill. Yeah.
Relearn.
Yeah. Yolanda said, I need to learn to challenge myself. Very interesting. Nadine, without chaos, we become complacent. Very good insight. So you see, when things happen and we think that they are chaotic, they are there to teach us something. They're there to reconfigure our mindset, our habits, our beliefs. They are there to wake us up out of complacency and to say, hello, you need to upskill, you need to learn new marketing skills, you need to change your location, you need to change something in a different direction because it's not working. And we become complacent. Now, deterministic randomness. Out of chaos, there is order. If we choose to look more closely, we can find that order. We can find it. But many times we choose to look at all that's happening that's wrong. But in every chaos, there is order. In every chaos, there is opportunity to learn. There's opportunity to learn. How can we have order in our chaos? What can you control? Learn to live at the edge of chaos. Accept change. Know yourself. Do we know ourselves? Do we know our likes and dislikes? Do we know our inner self? Are we setting goals? Are we setting smart goals? Are we setting smarter goals? Are we setting goals that and having accountability partners? Are we learning from our mistakes? Are we being proactive? Watching the job market, looking at stocks, looking at how things are changing globally? Are we open to welcoming uncertainty? Now, this word, I didn't like it at all, uncertainty, because I'm a planner too. And I like to know that things are in place and everything is going accordingly. But As I go deeper into my coaching practice, I recognize that I have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. I have to become comfortable with uncertainty. I have to plan for these moments. And it's hard, but I know that I need to change my perspective. I need to change how I think of my business. What do I need to do? Upskill. What else do I need to learn? Better marketing skills. Unlearn, relearn. And this one I think is very important. Take planned risks. Are you a risk taker? Are you a risk taker? Are you willing to say, I'm going to put all of everything in this? Elon Musk did that. Elon Musk did that. So when you look at the story and say, oh, he's a multi-billionaire, look at his story. He went all in. He put everything in. He took a planned risk, and he's now reaping the rewards. Take planned risks. Learn from our mistakes. Accept challenges and changes. Welcome uncertainties. Become comfortable in being uncomfortable. Be proactive. Upskill, unlearn, relearn. Know yourself. Learn to love, to live at the edge of chaos. So now I think in chaos, there are patterns. In chaos, there's creativity. In chaos, there's hope. Now, what do you think about chaos? Go ahead and share before we close off today. What do you think of chaos now?
Chaos is the magical recipe that we have all been waiting for.
William, go ahead.
Well, if there are patterns in chaos, there's no chaos at all, really.
So when we go back to our first definition that Catan made, a state of utter confusion and disorder, there is no state of utter confusion and disorder, William. It's only what we perceive. Am I correct? There is no chaos.
Yeah, in my opinion, there is no chaos.
And if you live in the now, there is no chaos.
Well,
So,
yep.
yeah. So now this definition is no longer valid. We can throw it out. So chaos is no longer a state of utter confusion and disorder. If we reframe our perspectives and our beliefs, we'll find that there is no chaos. There is no chaos because now we can see patterns. Now we can see order. And there is no chaos. So now I think all great changes are preceded by chaos.
So how do you define the patterns, right? It's not like that it's easy. Even when you know yourself well, you need to have a certain amount of consciousness about what you're doing and why you're doing it to be able to recognize the patterns in it. And even when you're recognizing the patterns doesn't mean, because then that's the first step only. The second step is maybe to interrupt your own patterns. So, you know, and as long that doesn't happen, there's still chaos there. Like, because it's perceived as chaos when you cannot read your own patterns and you cannot interrupt your own patterns or tweak them in a way that you have new patterns which are more connected to your now self and not like as conscious, unconscious, and programmed from your previous imprintment and education and whatever, you know. So I think there's a lot of work. It's not as
I know.
easy
That
as
is
saying
it.
like there's no chaos because there's only their patterns. Like, but how? What's the next step? How do you see the patterns of your own behavior, and how do you change them?
So this is just a prelude of our investigation into what we perceive as chaos, because now we're going to have to evaluate our lives. We're going to have to evaluate our belief system. We're going to have to evaluate our perceptions. That takes time. It's a process. It's not going to happen overnight, because we have been so trained and indoctrinated and from our systems that this is what chaos looks like. But if you can find the pattern, if you can find order in it, then it no longer becomes chaos because there's order in it now. So what we need to do is continuously learn, continuously unlearn the ideas that we knew before, learn new things, upskill, change perspectives, practice reframing, and the process continues. We have to choose to see the positivity out of every negative situation. See the good in everything that we have or whatever we are experiencing, because it's always good. But we have to choose to see it. It all comes down to choice. The choices that we make. Will I continue to see my life in chaos, or will I look a little closer and find the patterns and find the order in this? Anybody else? Go ahead. Dino, Darko, William, any more insights?
What jumped up for me, I think what would be one of our most valuable assets is, to be able to consistently shift our perspective and remain present wherever we are. I like this very interesting analogy. Do you know the difference between millionaires and homeless people? Yeah, a millionaire has a longer time horizon than a homeless man. A homeless man, his time horizon for his goal is that like one day he need to find shelter and food. Whereas maybe a millionaire, billionaire like Elon Musk, he want to go to Mars, and that time horizon is even after he's left. And I think even for maybe some of us as well here, our time horizon for when we want to achieve whatever in life, has a much more length compared to others, and depends on that horizon, we would classify certain things as chaotic or not. And then I can look at a professional artist. When he look at his work, maybe he's seeing circles and lines. When I look at his work, I see some complicated, masterpiece. Yeah, so depends on how you're shifting your perspective consistently and being in the moment. I think that's would be my biggest asset moving forward as well. Thank you so much for this, Jennifer.
Nadine says we need to see our blind spots and accept criticism, but use it as fuel to move forward. Very good. Bernadette says, look at nature, her system, patterns, and seasons. What are we going to choose today? Are we going to choose to see the patterns? Are we going to see how will we begin to reframe our perspectives and our beliefs? What you choose to look at, you will see. If you choose to see chaos, that's what you're going to see. But if you choose to see some order in all of this, and that chaos doesn't really exist, then it's really your choice too. But how will it benefit your life? How will you grow from this? What will you learn? What will you unlearn? What will you do after this to bring forth this creativity, to bring forward a better you? What will you need to do today? Questions. All great changes are preceded by chaos. So these are my references, and I want to thank you so much for listening to me today. We want to continue this discussion, so you can find me in the Motivate community. We can continue talking about this, evaluating, changing perspectives, and reframing our thoughts about chaos and finding order in our chaotic situations. Thank you so much. Do we have any other questions, any other insights that you want to share today? Go ahead.
Boom! You made it here. Good on you. Make sure you click the subscribe button below and check out the playlist at the end. If you'd like to come along to our Sunday sessions where we host a live free Q&A for our students and members, you're welcome. I'll see you there.